Okay, what's up? What's up? Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Hello, Holly. Thank you for joining us in the Live Fearlessly vlog series. You are episode 68 today. How are you?
Wow. I am good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited to dive in and talk to you about fear, how that presents itself to you in that time of your life. But before I do that, I would love to just tell the viewers just a tiny snippet about you so they get a little scope into the fact that, you're a twin mom. You
Yeah.
I'm the corporate ladder. You have 20 years of business strategy consulting experience, which is incredible. And you now help other women build their businesses too. So super excited to dive in. And would you go ahead and tell us, where are you located?
Yeah. So I'm in Columbus, Ohio. So Midwest.
Yes,
Yeah.
Midwest. I love it. And how old are your twins?
My twins are 6.5. They'll be 7 in October.
Yes,
Yeah.
awesome. Cool. Okay, so I love to just start out with kind of interesting facts or fun facts that maybe we wouldn't know about you otherwise. So, what is a fun fact about Holly that you would love to share with us?
Oh gosh. Well, we can stick with the twins. And the twins were a surprise. I mean, we knew that we were obviously trying to have a child, but I had no concept that twins just surprise, there's two instead of one. Um, and I have a stepdaughter also who is 22, and she actually just graduated from Vanderbilt. And so the
Wow.
agreement with my husband and I was, one kid, we'll figure it out. And then it was like, no, wait, there's two. So it's always been one of those life surprises. It's been really amazing, but never would have expected that if you would have asked me 10 years ago, if that would be our path.
Right? Double the fun, double the
Yeah,
excitement, and double the real-time experience, everything.
exactly.
I love it. That's so great. Are you originally from Ohio?
I am. Yeah, I grew up near Yellow Springs, which is this tiny little hippie town. And then, yeah, just been in the Midwest ever since.
I love it. That's awesome. Um, so Okay, so diving in, talking about your story, I would love for
Yeah.
you to just start by telling us, when you hear the question, I know we've connected, but when you hear the question, about a significant time in your life when fear held you back from living your life fully, go ahead and tell us when that time, what that took you to when you were asked that question.
Yeah, so I think it's happened a couple different times, but it sort of was the same thing.
Okay.
The first time was, so I have a business background, went to college, followed the whatever the 3-step plan is to get a job in consulting, move to a big city, climb the corporate ladder. I ended up getting my MBA, which I'm very proud of, but sitting in those classes, I was like, wow, I can really do more, because what you study is entrepreneurship and strategy and, international travel and business. And I was like, okay, I'm in Ohio. There's such a bigger world, right?
Yeah.
And so it got my head spinning a little bit, and we ended up traveling and all the things after that. And then I had my girls, and I was still, working the corporate job. I still work 9 to 5 today with my coaching business. But in the back of my head, I just kept thinking it's like that same voice kept coming back. There's got to be something different. There's got to be something more. And I think when I had my girls, it escalated even more because, when you leave the house after having 2 babies at one time, you're kind of like, well, why am I leaving? What am I working towards? And I just kept thinking that I wanted to do something where I was making a bigger impact. And I knew I
Yeah.
had the background to do it, right? I knew that I had been doing, strategy work for really big companies for a long
Yeah.
time. And I just had to figure out how to flip it to make it work on a scale that I could manage. And so it's kind of interesting. It wasn't this, I don't want car crash moment or anything like that. It's sort of built up over time. And that's why I always say, little steps and little things really add up over time, because you just never
Absolutely.
know. And so long story short, I ended up, after the girls, trying to get back in shape, and got connected with a coach and started doing wellness coaching, because for me, it was something that I was passionate about and I was helping other people. And then everyone kept asking, well, how do you do all of that? How are you fitting this in? And so I kept answering, and it sort of turned in to what it is now. But it was sort of that moment sitting in class where I was like, this has got to be different. Like, there's a different way. And I'm already like, I know how to put in the hours. I know how to do the work. I have the background. Like, what does that look like? And it just took a couple years of brainstorming and trying things, and failing and trying again, and not giving up. So that's how I got where I am now.
Yeah, no, I love it. So I love the fact that you're like, you love that you have the MBA, that you did, you know, the motions of that. But I love the fact that you were like questioning it, going like, okay, I know I'm capable of that, because hard work wasn't the question, right? You knew how to put in the hard work. You were working with Fortune 500 companies, and like, so it's not that, it's just, okay, figuring out that you could do it for yourself and how that would work, and knowing that you would have more of a purpose in the impact that you could be making with people. I think that is so awesome, because we basically, we all have that script, right? We all know the same thing, you know, go to school, get good grades, go to college, have the family, white picket fence, all those things, right? That is what we're supposed to do. That's unknowingly what we were all fed as kids, like growing up. But it's that the drive to want to like do more and be more, like you mentioned, that is fascinating to me, to see like how these things play out in our lives in like the span of what we're doing. So like during this time, right, like when the fear of like, okay, what do I do with this, where were you mentally? So actually, let me ask something, let me back up for a second. What would you say your fear was?
Well, I think there are a couple of fears. So one, there's a fear of, well, I'm already doing like 1,000 things. Like, how in the world am I going to fit in trying to do something else? And then I think it's just the fear of being different, right? And I still have that fear today, because a lot of my friends are like, I don't really understand what you do. Like, what do you like? What's happening on Instagram? I don't get that. Like, what, you have a podcast? Like, people are like, I just don't get this. So it's like fear of being rejected, and, you know, are people really going to want your help? And then, you know, are you good enough? Are you good enough to, you know, share your story and be able to make a difference? And I think that just takes practice, right? You just have to put yourself out there and practice. Probably basic fears that most people have about starting something new.
Yeah, no, I love that you say, you know, putting yourself out there, and it takes practice, because it's so true. As I mentioned, this is episode 68. And I'm very forward with people to say, like, this was quite literally one of my fears. Like, showing up and doing this kind of thing was one of the things that I was like, I can't do that. I don't think that's a good idea.
Right.
And like, we have these monologues that we have with ourselves that we're like, oh, okay. But then we need to just keep showing up. Like, I have to tell myself, I'm excited to do this, because I'm excited for you to share your story. I'm excited for someone on the other end to resonate with what you're going through, in order for them to find that nugget that you're about to share with us. That's just going to be like, blow something wide open for them to be like, I need to go connect with Holly. Like, she sounds like someone that I need to talk to and just like work this through, or, you know, find a tool, whatever it is. But it's really looking outside of ourselves to know, like, it wasn't about you. It was really like, oh, I need to focus on the impact that I want to make to people, which is where that shift kind of comes into play, I feel like. So, no, that's awesome. So with now knowing that, like, those are the fears that were coming up for you during that time. Where would you say you were, like, mentally, and how did you feel about yourself during that time?
I mean, I think I always can relate to feeling very unsettled, right? Because you know that what you're doing is okay, but you want to make a difference, right? Like, and you want to make it different. And so it's unsettling because it's not a clear path, right? Like, it's not laid out for you. It's not like, do step 1, 2, 3, and then 4 is going to happen. Like, you could do 1 and 2, and then you're going to have to go back to 1. And that happens all the time. And so I think just unsettled, and still like that today. I think you get used to it, maybe. I don't know.
Getting uncomfortable or
Yeah,
being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
exactly. Yeah. And I think I still, probably less today than a couple years ago, but I really was nervous about what people would think, right? Because I'm working with big like CEOs and CFOs, and like, what if
Right.
they log on to iTunes and see my podcast? Like, what if they are on Facebook and be like, what is she doing? Like, is it going to impact my career? And at that point I was still, doing both. And so you always worry about what others think. I think I just have thicker skin now. And I've seen that putting yourself out there not only can help so many people, but they help you back, right? So you make some amazing connections, and like, I have a group of friends now that are doing similar things, and it's just become this like big community that I never expected. Like, that's not what I thought would come out of it. And so it's been really amazing.
Those are awesome bonuses, right? Like
Yeah.
when we kind of get over ourselves and we kind of take the plunges and we're like, okay, let's just see what happens. And
Mm-hmm.
then those beautiful relationships and things show up. They're like, okay, we're all kind of going through this
Yeah.
together. More of a unity thing where you're like, I'm not alone in this. And that's a beautiful place to be when you can see through the other side. But
Yeah.
tough skin is a good thing to have.
It is. I mean, you still get your like naysayers and your like rude comments, but
Oh yeah.
they're few and far between, which is nice.
Yeah, totally. I love that. So you mentioned like the friendships and that kind of thing. Was there any other kind of relationships in your life that shifted along with, moving out of the fear space, right? Like positive or negative, your friends that came with you or that are growing with you now, like how else would you talk about relationships shifting when you were going through this?
I mean, I think in a way, like your whole life shifts and you don't really realize it, because when I first got started, I had a coach that I was working with, and they're like, we need to work on yourself first. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? Like, and they're like, well, you need to like motivate yourself. What are you doing to motivate yourself? What are you doing to take care of yourself? And like, for me as a new mom, I was like, well, you're crazy. I'm like not sleeping. Like, I'm not going to like work out. Like, you're nuts. So I think like as you sort of shift your mindset, people around you start to notice as well. Some follow, some don't, and that's okay. Um, and so I would say, 90% of my friends are still the same, but there's that sort of 10% that are like, I don't know what you're doing, and that's okay too. But I feel like my confidence and my mindset is so much different than it was when I started. Um, and that's another bonus that it goes back to like, so I would always say like put fear in the backseat of the minivan, and it can ride along, like it's in the back, I see it, but I'm gonna keep going. And I never said I would drive a minivan, but now I do, so it's okay. That could
I
happen.
said the same thing.
Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question, but
No, yeah, that's good. I love that you talked about fear like in the seat of the car, but I always talk about fear as my best friend. So I might put fear like in the passenger seat with me and be like,
yeah,
hey, we're gonna do this thing. Like, let's do this thing. Let's put our seatbelts on and strap it on. Like, let's go for it.
yeah. It's hanging out there with me. I can tell you it's there, but
Yeah,
just look at it a little bit differently.
right, exactly. So when you were going through those fears, right, and feeling like, oh, should I be doing this? Is this an okay thing? Like as a new mom, finding my new identity, like all of that kind of stuff. Like what compelled you to shift out of that and move past the fears or better have it with you and kind of be okay with that?
I think it comes down to how bad do you want to change. And that really, I think, applies to anything. I just knew that I couldn't continue on. Like, I always compare it to like running on a hamster wheel. Like, I just felt like I was like going through the motions and there was nothing that I was excited about or that I was energized about. And I just needed something to like latch onto. Because as you become a new parent, whether or not you have twins or not, like it's very different. And, you know, people can tell you that, but till you actually experience it, it's like,
Right.
oh, wait, you were serious about this. And so I just needed something that made me feel like myself. And for me, it was like teaching and sharing and learning. And so I think that change, that wanting to change was there. But I think with anything, right? Like diet, same thing. Like if you don't want to change, like you're going to eat the cookie. If you do want to
Right.
change, you won't. And so it's just finding that motivation. And I know coaches talk about it all the time, but like, what's your why? Like, what is going to drive you to get out of bed like a half hour early to do whatever you're focused on? I can't answer that for anyone. But I knew for me that half hour was the only time of the day where I could, you know, focus on myself. And that's what I needed. And so that's how I sort of shifted all the things.
Yeah, no, totally. I've transitioned to wake my butt up at 4 a.m. so that I have a full 3 hours before the
4
rest of my,
a.m. Wow, that's the
yes.
earliest I've heard. What time do you go to bed?
Well, normally by 11, and I've tried to push it to 10 so that I
What?
get a little, yeah, I
That
function
is
on 5 hours of
crazy.
sleep all the time,
I cannot
all the
function
time.
on that little sleep.
Yeah.
I'm like a 10 to 5 person.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not really like I don't need a lot of sleep, but I will say like that time and space. I actually did a Facebook Live about this, but it was like, you know, we get to decide our uncomfortable because I do not want to wake up at 4 a.m.
Right.
I do
No one
not want
does.
to. You think I
Well,
want to
maybe
wake up
some people,
before
but
the
I haven't
birds
met
wake
one
up?
yet.
No. But I want the time for myself. I want that selfish time to set myself up for success because in the long run, like we need to realize, especially as parents, like that time is to benefit our families as well. Like if I
Yeah.
wasn't doing that for myself, like I'm not showing up as the best mom that I could be, or even a better mom that I would be if I was snoozing my alarm. Because I was that mom. I was the one that was snooze, snooze, snooze. My kids would come in and I'd be like, oh, just let me sleep, you know? And we feel yucky throughout our whole
Mm,
day because it just, that's how it started our day. So I love that
right.
you brought up like getting up a little bit earlier. I'm kind of I'm an exaggeration. Like I'm kind of, yeah, that's just me. but,
Yeah.
but I totally resonate with that. I think that's a really important thing for all the parents on here. Like if you don't get up early and like do something for yourself, like I recommend try it out and see how different you feel throughout your whole
Hmm.
day.
Yeah. I
It
always
will
say
set
that.
you
I'm
up.
saying even if you get up 20 minutes early to like drink coffee in silence, like note how you
Yeah.
feel. It's like instant gratification. It's
Yes.
way better than snooze. Like it's like, yeah, I even on the weekends I get up before everyone else. My husband thinks
Yep.
I'm nuts, but I'm so much of a happier person. And like, you know, on Saturdays I'll get up like 6. I go to bed really early. Um but no one gets up till 8. So I have 2 full hours where I can knock out whatever I want to get done, and then the rest of the day is just like hanging out,
Yeah.
which, you know, makes everyone much calmer.
That's amazing. Your twins sleep until 8 o'clock.
They do. They go to bed. We got a routine going, even at 6.
That's awesome. A routine and during COVID, like props, mama.
So that's the one thing that saved us. We didn't stop our routine
Yeah.
during all of this. Like we kept it going. Like they still go to bed at the same time. I mean, they stay up a little bit on the weekends, but yeah, we all need our sanity.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's a great segue too. Like, my next question is like, what kind of advice would you give the viewers about fear, anxiety, like all of the unknown and that uncertainty that we were talking about? Like, what kind of advice would you give the people about that, in from your point of view and your experience?
So I actually just did a post on this today over on Instagram about overwhelm happens when you feel like you have to do everything at the same time, and you don't have to. And
Right.
so what I teach my clients and what I talk about a lot is picking one thing. So like today, I had one thing that I needed to knock out. It was checking in with my other clients. Everything else was a bonus because I knew like I had other things going on. I have work, I have meetings. That was my one thing. And so, of course, my list is has like 100 things on it, but I tend to try to pick one thing a day, sometimes two. But that really helps with the overwhelm. And when you think about how your day goes and all the interruptions and all the meetings and all the things, like you don't have time to do 15 things in a day. Like you really don't. And you need to accommodate for like breaks, emergencies, pandemics, like stress, all the things that you just don't know are going to happen. And so when I really just like cleared my to-do list, which just saying it like stresses people out. It doesn't mean that you have to get rid of it. Like, don't get rid of it if writing it out helps you, but try to just focus on one thing. And then what happens is you become more confident in getting through the day, right? So let's say you got up 10 minutes early, you had a quiet moment to yourself, you picked one thing to do for the day, you knocked it out of the park, you didn't feel stressed because the rest can wait till tomorrow. And you start to feel more confident, which then I think helps conquer that fear of I'm not good enough, I can't get anything done, I'm exhausted, I'm running on the hamster wheel, like all those things just keep going. And so if you can focus on one thing, it really helps. It's hard. Like I get it. Like I have those like red flags in my head, like, no, it would be so much better if you did all these other things. But sometimes when you just slow it down, you actually speed things up.
I like that. That's a perfect, like, that's so true.
Yeah.
And the fact that you mentioned 15 things specifically, I'm like, okay, this is what I literally say this because we talked about like task lists and checking the things off. And I talk about how we have 15 things on our to-do list every day. We get 13 of them done, and we are only thinking about the 2 things that are not checked off of our list. And my business partner and I have a virtual workspace that is formulated around this because it is such a thing that as a society, we need to do more. We need to do more. And actually we need to be like, we need to be still, we need to be present. We need to be aware of like what's happening around us and know like what happens when we are working on purpose with purpose. That's our community, work on purpose with purpose. It is to focus in on the things that matter. So you talking about like the one thing, we talk to our members about picking 3 things. What are your 3 must-dos and then your bonus? The bonus is something for you to celebrate yourself because we want to celebrate those little wins to get us to the big goals. So everything that you're saying, I'm like, okay, I gotta just plug this in here. And one, I would love to invite you to come check it out. I know you work during the week, but we have a Sunday call that I would love to invite you to check out. But it's so true. Like all of the little things that you're saying, like to pull that together, it's like, that is a huge thing that our society, especially now in the pandemic, like they're in the overwhelm, they need to move through it. Like pick something, like Holly's saying, like pick something and make a move on it and make it something that's intentional to move the needle in your day. And then it gives you that endorphin kick to know like, I can do things, you know, even in the hard, uncertain times, we can make one strategic move in a day that is totally underwhelming to think about it in one way. And I love that. So that's great.
And as a bonus, you can knock it out in the morning before anyone's up. And then you're going to feel like you can conquer the world. That's what I say.
Right. And you filled your cup. So bonus, you're ready for round 2.
Exactly.
I love it. So, okay. So now that like you have tools now, like going through all of the things that you've been working on and continue to help people with your coaching and your podcast and everything, like where do you see yourself 5 years from now that you are more equipped to live your life fearlessly? And what I like to say, you know, about fearlessness is that it's not that we have no fear, it's that we have fears every single day, but we're more equipped to deal with them and know like we aren't going to die from them. We're going to grow and expand from them. So what does that look like for you? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, so I think it's building my platform to be able to help more people. And what that looks like, I don't know. I mean, I'm developing a course right now. I'm actually teaching it live. So I have a small like cohort that's going through it. And then I'd love to make it available to more people. I just started my podcast. So trying to think of ways that I can help more people efficiently, right? Because there's only 24 hours in a day.
Yes.
But I think going back to like where I was, 5 years ago, like I wish that someone would have pulled me aside and told me these things. Like I wish somebody would have told me like, hey, you might want to try getting up 10 minutes earlier. Like that will really help you. Or one of the things I talk about is reading 10 minutes a day. Like that's one of the things I do for motivation. And it makes such a huge difference. Like you can read like 14 books in a year from reading 10 minutes a day. And so it's like, well, I wish somebody would have told me that like 10 years ago. Like think how much more I would know. And I'm not saying like you have to look back, but I want to be able to help more. So
Right. I
probably
love
some
it.
course.
I'm all about teaching through our life experiences, and it's definitely, I mean, granted, right, if we think about that, I guarantee that if someone would have told us that then, we wouldn't have been ready for the message.
Exactly. Well, you
But
never know. There's a few things that have been like, thank you.
yeah. But yeah, no, I love that. So this has been awesome. I love like the little nuggets that you've given us. And like, where is the best place? You've mentioned your podcast, and like, what is the best place that the viewers can plug in to connect with you?
Yeah, so Instagram, I'm pretty active. It's Holly_Marie_Haynes. I do a lot of quick tips like during the day, and I'll like peek in like while I'm working and be like, hey, this is what I did. Like I just a few minutes ago popped on and was like, hey, at the end of the day on Friday, like I will write out what I want to do for the weekend. It's 90% fun, but then I'll write out my schedule for Monday so that I'm not stressed out on Sunday night. It takes away, I call them the Sunday scaries. People are like,
You do all that on Fridays?
yeah, it takes like 10 minutes. Like it's not like I'm trying to like plan out my whole week or anything. It's more of just like, okay, on Monday, like I have these 3 things that I want to do.
Cool.
So I do a lot of like real life tips there. And then my podcast, I have some great speakers, but I also do pep talks, usually on Friday or Saturday. And I sort of wing them. So it's based on like whatever's going on during the week or like what questions I get asked. And so it's called Crush the Rush. It is everywhere you can find a podcast. And then my website is just hollymariehaynes.com. So there's lots of great templates, time blocking, a bunch of things coming. So you can check it out.
Yay, productivity. We love productivity. I love it. Well, Holly, thank you so much for coming on, sharing a little bit more about your life experience, your family, all the things that you're going through. And I appreciate your time and coming on the vlog. This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great.
Awesome. Well, you guys, love yourself, live fearlessly, have a fantastic day. Let us know something that you took away from this, what resonated with you. Reach out to Holly, connect with her, check out her podcast, and we will talk to you guys soon.
Bye.